just to prove that things aren't always what they seem. See this poor, old, worn-out vacuum cleaner? Any old cleaner you have around the house is worth $20 in trade at Ned's on this revolutionary new General Electric swivel top cleaner. And then you pay only $1 a week. Now here's tonight's movie.
There is one skill that outperforms any other skill on the planet. And to be proficient at this skill will make you a high income earner for the rest of your life. To begin to understand this one skill is to master the rule of reciprocity. This isn't about a framework that you have to memorize, but rather opening your mind to a new way of looking at relationships and understanding it so that it clicks in your brain. But this isn't good enough. I need to show you how it was internalized in me after I heard this one story from my Uncle Bill. In my previous videos, I've talked a bit about my Uncle Bill and how he was a former executive with ABC Television and the VP of sales for local advertisement.
Good evening. This is Bill McDonald.
I saw this television studio, just like we're in right now. And when they said, would you like to get into television? I said, yeah.
Bill has handled millions of dollars of transactions in his lifetime, and by all means, a master of the rule of reciprocity.
I really liked the people aspect of the business, and I somewhat knew my talents weren't really on the air. I wanted to help people, and so that's why sales attracted me.
So let's go back to 1965. We're looking at the Sands Hotel in Las Vegas. They're getting a total rebrand. The old sign that they had is auctioned off to the highest bidder. Christian Fay purchased the old sign to use for his new entrepreneurial venture back in Fort Wayne, Indiana. So he took the sign and carried the branding with it and created the Sands Supper Club, which included a hotel, a restaurant, and a nightclub. And over the course of the 1970s, Fay made countless friends, one of them being my Uncle Bill.
Back in 1972, a man who went by the name of Fay, who was kind of a raconteur, restaurateur, man about town, owned the place. And one night, after I was going there for about a year, he said, why don't you have dinner with me? And it came like we were having dinner almost every night, at least once a week. He said, Bill, this is a dance club, but I have a chance to bring in some entertainment like Frank Sinatra Jr., Rosemary Clooney. You sell advertising, you never try to sell me anything. I said, Fay, that's not why we're friends.
After that statement, Fay practically begged Bill to take his business, and Fay's account at the Sands ended up becoming one of Bill's most loyal clients, paying him tens of thousands of dollars every month.
So much so, when he would go out of town, he'd go away in the wintertime to Vegas to book acts, and he said, Bill, would you look after the place? He had a manager there, but I was honored and glad to do it. Brings back a lot of memories. He lived to be 86 years of age, and he just knew everybody.
The longer you spend building up your goodwill with another person and not asking for anything in return, the bigger the ask can be. But something interesting happens when you never ask. Our good friend Alex Hormozy says,
if you have given enough to people, you will already have earned their trust so that you don't need to sell. They will just say, I want to work with you, and you just accept it and you say, sure.
And here's why. When you can prove to the people around you that you genuinely aren't in it for selfish reasons, the other person becomes much more inclined to make things about you and ask you to take their business. And let me break it down for you. The easiest way to prove to the other person that you aren't being selfish is to actually not be doing it for selfish reasons. It's to actually not be selfish. It's like, how do we do that though? C.S. Lewis says, humility is not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less. A problem occurs though when you realize that the other way to prove to the other person that you're not being selfish when you help them is to just lie. This creates its own ethical dilemma, obviously, for the people who only care about the rule of reciprocity for what it can bring them. But I'm not going to pretend that this other path doesn't exist. It definitely does. And you actually can hack other people's reciprocity and even make them happy about it. But in my opinion, and hopefully in the opinion of most of you as well, that's manipulation. And I'd like to think that the subscribers to my channel are much more interested in the business philosophy so that we can learn how to use it wisely and effectively rather than for the wrong reasons. But luckily for us, this ulterior way of using the rule of reciprocity, lying about your intentions behind helping people, actually can only ever make you an amateur at best at the rule of reciprocity. When you align yourself with the first option of the rule of reciprocity, which is to genuinely help people when they need you, allows you to raise your ceiling to eventually become a master at the art. And so from a completely practical standpoint, I'm just going to focus on this path of mastery. Because not only is it possible, it's also a much better path for the sake of your own soul and for the people around you. Before I get into the next bit, I want to talk about what my intentions are behind making this video. I believe that all we have is truly under God's ownership, and we have only been named a steward of what we have been given. That's why when the time comes that we're asked to give up our belongings, we're supposed to do so cheerfully, because it was never ours to begin with. But this is good news. because the way that we're supposed to understand ownership and generosity actually perfectly aligns with the path that you have to take to mastering the rule of reciprocity. So what I hope is that by sharing with you the path that it takes to master the rule of reciprocity, you might also be made aware of the philosophical foundation that is the underlayment for the path that you have to take. The key to mastering the rule of reciprocity is to give without expecting anything in return. We would call this gift unconditional, because you give with no condition of something in return. If we expect something in return, we've placed a condition on that thing or that gift or that act of help. But I want to make it known that it's not like giving with a condition is bad or evil in any way. It's just more like it's not as good as giving unconditionally, right? You can give conditionally and still do well with the rule of reciprocity, but you can never master it. But to give with a condition of something in return is a scarcity mindset, and you need to have a mindset of abundance to truly give unconditionally. And it's this mindset of abundance because you trust that you will be given everything that you need as you need it, rather than depending on the business people around you who owe you favors. Because when someone sees that you are giving to them because you genuinely want to help them, rather than hoping for something in return, they become determined to help you wherever they can. It's part of the goodness of human nature. We were made for community with each other, and communities help each other. But with the fear of sounding meta, when you try to give unconditionally because you want something in return, you're no longer giving unconditionally. You've kind of foiled your own efforts. It's like this really weird phenomena that can only be prevented when you really don't think about it in terms of the rule of reciprocity anymore. You have to be giving from a pure love. And I mean even in a business context as well. But as I'm figuring this out, I'm realizing it's even still a difficult thing for me to understand sometimes. So I want to make this as clear to you as possible. If you want to master the rule of reciprocity, you do so by giving unconditionally. And the way that you give unconditionally is to not focus on the rule of reciprocity. It's to not place the focus on what you get in return, but rather placing the focus on your gift. This isn't a video about how to implement the rule of reciprocity into your life. If you want to do that, I can break it down for you in like one sentence. Give conditionally and give often, and you will close more deals. But this is a video about how to master the rule of reciprocity, and the only way that you can do that is when you give unconditionally. And when we learn to do that, we can master the art of unconditional love, which will not only help our business relationships, but also our personal relationships as well. I want to honestly say thank you for watching today's video. Thank you for giving me your attention. You've heard me out, and if you got anything in return, that's just gravy on top. Just by watching, you're supporting my channel, and I hope to reciprocate that gift by continuing to share the philosophies and principles that I'm learning as I'm growing my business. But even in this small act, you've practiced the rule of reciprocity. Congratulations on your way to becoming a master.
You're not friends with people just because they buy from you. You're friends with people because you like somebody, and that's what it's all about.